Okay, so we will make a start. My name is Suzanne Hill. You're all very welcome to this AI for Construction webinar. The agenda for this afternoon, it's going to be a 1-hour webinar. I'll try and stick to that as much as possible. So what I want to do is give you a bit of an understanding of AI from a business perspective, talk about the different uses of AI in the construction sector, what the benefits of AI are for your company, why AI implementation is more than an IT project. The IT element of it is probably around 20%. The other 80% is other things. Why it's so important to adopt AI now and to get ahead. What construction might look like in the future, and then a little bit about how you manage risk. I hope that gives you a good overview. Just to introduce myself, I have been an employee, a consultant, and a board advisor in the construction sector over the last 28 years. I have worked with over 250 clients in this sector, and I was a board advisor to Gilbert Ash, writing 2 3-year strategies that took the company from 60 million to 200 million. I've actually worked in construction in 60 different countries, and I have worked with many of the chambers of construction overseas. Within the UK and Ireland, I've worked with many of the construction industry boards as well, and the industry associations. I speak 5 languages, and my claim to fame in construction is that I once gave a talk to 250 architects in Brazil in Portuguese on the benefits of natural daylighting. And that's what I love about this industry. It's random, and you just never know what you're going to get involved in next. So this happened back in February. There are a lot of people offering training and consultancy in AI. Sorry, just bear with me. There's a couple more people in the meeting room here. Sorry, apologies. Sorry about that. Okay, so I received an accreditation by the All Ireland Business Foundation as thought leader for 2025 in AI. This was really important to me to have this external accreditation because it was really to say, yes, this person actually does know what they're talking about when it comes to AI. This slide, this was back on the 1st of October. This was a bit of a career highlight for me. My 2 areas of specialization are AI for construction and AI for marketing. And I was the keynote speaker in AI at eBay UK's annual conference. So the audience here was just 4,000 people. So it was a bit nerve-wracking, but sometimes you've just got to do these things. So how can you use AI in construction? So let me explain to you a little bit about what my journey has been to date. So how did I get from construction into AI? Well, I started reading about AI probably about 7 years ago. It was all quite new, and I thought this sounds really interesting. I'm really interested in anything to do with innovation. And so then about 4 years ago, I started to see a real uptick in the number of articles online. And I happened to be reading this particular article one day, and I thought, oh my goodness, if this evolves and develops how they say it's going to, I'm going to be out of a job in 5 years' time. So I have had my own strategy consultancy for 23 years. So advising companies on strategy, repositioning, competitive advantage, business improvement, business growth. And I realized that the nature of the advice that I gave was going to have to completely change. It was going to have to be viewed through the lens of how AI would impact my clients. So not only did it change how I execute my services, it was the nature of the advice that I was given to clients as well. So it was a bit of I suppose, a bit of an epiphany. And I thought, right, I'm going to need to really get on top of this subject if I want to keep my clients ahead of the curve. So, but the more I read about AI online, the more I kind of went from being really excited about the opportunities to feeling really confused about where you would even get started. So I decided to go back to university for the first time in around 25 years. So I signed up for a diploma course at UCD, AI for Business. I'm sitting in the class in week 2. There's this whole technical discussion going on, and all these techies in the class from the banks and the multinationals that are based in Dublin, they're all having this really technical conversation, and I'm sitting there thinking, I don't understand a word these people are talking about. This is going to be completely over my head, and this is going to be a disaster. But as the weeks went on, we started to talk more and more about strategy and how to actually implement AI. And it was at that point that I realized, hang on a minute here, AI is not actually just about technology. In fact, the technology element is probably about 20%. And the other 80% is about people, about strategy, about data, and about business models. So needless to say, I finished up the course. I graduated with distinction, and I went straight on and did another diploma course then in advanced AI for business, again, graduated with distinction. But when I finished that, I realized that there's a lot of information on AI out there, but I realized that if you are a business leader or a business owner and you're responsible for strategy, you can go off and, do training courses on AI, and but nobody is really pulling it all together and explaining to you how it all fits together. So I decided to evolve my company into a new entity called AI for SMEs, with the purpose of providing training, consultancy, and implementation for companies to help them get to grips with AI. But the more I talk to business owners, the more I realize that there's so much information out there, but yet everybody I speak to seems really confused. And the most common thing they say to me is, we still don't know where to start. We don't know how to get started. So I realized that the information that's out there is not really necessarily the type of information that business leaders need in order to get started. And there's a reason for that. And I think it's because the information is dominated by 3 different sources, none of which are even remotely useful. So 3 types of information. The first one is all the tech-focused jargon. Now, unless you're a techie, nobody understands this. And the whole point of AI is to make it that you don't need to be a technical person to understand how to use it. It's supposed to be very, very user-friendly. So, but the techies love to talk tech, and but it just confuses everybody. The second source of information then is coming from the tool vendors, the AI tool vendors. Now, lots of people are probably familiar with things like ChatGPT or Google Gemini or, Perplexity or Claude, but there are actually 14,500 AI tools on the market. And a lot of these are job role specific. So whereas things like ChatGPT or Google Gemini are really all-purpose tools, they're not specific for particular job roles. But I don't know about you, but whenever I go online, I'm completely bombarded by all these ads for different AI tools, and it becomes very overwhelming. And that's part of the reason why it's so hard to know where to start. And then the third type of information is hype. And we've all heard this. Everybody's company's going to close. We're all going to lose our jobs and be replaced by robots. And then the office coffee machine is going to take on a life of its own and it's going to murder us all. So these three types of information, either leave you confused, overwhelmed, or very fearful. So I try to explain AI from a very, I suppose, to give people a very simple framework to understand it. And I like to use the analogy of a car. So say, for example, you decide that you want to drive from London to Birmingham. So going to Birmingham is like your destination. That's your business objective, to get to Birmingham. So the route that you decide to take to get there is like your strategy or your process. And the car is like the AI tool. It's an enabler. It's just a means of getting from one place to another. So in this case, from London to Birmingham. But the car is going absolutely nowhere without you. So the driver or the person in this picture is the most important part of the whole thing. Because it's the driver of the car who decides the destination, they decide the route or the strategy to take, they decide what AI tool to use, and they make adjustments along the way depending on internal or external circumstances. Now, the fuel for the car is like your data. It has to be of sufficient quality and in sufficient quantity to power you to get to your destination. So if you're ever feeling confused about AI, go back to this analogy. And the big problem with AI implementation is that most people start with the car. Now, you don't go out and buy a car just for the sake of it. Or you don't get into your car just for the sake of it and think, oh, I'll just sit here. You get into your car to take you to a place, but if you don't know where you're going, the car's no use to you. And it's the same with AI. So you should always start with your destination in mind. And this is where companies go wrong. This is one of the most common mistakes that I see with AI implementation. So always start off with, what is my business objective? What are you trying to achieve? Where do you want to go? What's your strategy for getting there? What challenges are stopping me or stopping our company from achieving our business objective? Or what departmental bottlenecks are there? So it's only at that point, when you're really clear on all of that, that then you go and find an AI tool to help you overcome the challenge or get past the bottleneck. But the biggest mistake I see companies make is starting with the AI tool and then trying to make it fit the business. If you do this, you'll end up with lots of AI tools that nobody uses. You maybe get one or two enthusiasts in the company and nobody else will get involved. And you just end up spending a lot of money for no purpose. Or you might bring in AI tools that you think, yeah, that's quite neat and clever and it does clever things, but it actually doesn't impact your business in any meaningful way. There's no return on investment and you can't prove the return on investment. So, there's an exercise to go through here before you go and look for the AI tool. You need to make the business case for it first, and then go and, get demos or set up pilot projects. So rather than thinking about AI from a technical perspective, how can we think about it in terms of what it actually does inside a company? So I like to try to explain AI from a business perspective. So AI performs three different functions. It either automates processes, so it's maybe a software package that handles repetitive tasks and admin. It allows you to get insights from your data, so it crunches large volumes of data to find patterns. Or it enhances customer and employee interactions, so improves engagement. And those are the three main things that AI does within a company. So what does that actually look like then in practice? So automating processes is known as robotic process automation, and it can either be hardware or software. So what does it look like in terms of hardware? So in a general sense, it's like the little delivery robots, or it's maybe the restaurant service where the robot brings the tray to your table. In a construction scenario, it could be like the Boston Dynamics, robot dog that collects data and sends it directly back to a 3D model. So a lot of the civil engineering contractors would use this, for example, maybe sending out the robot along railway lines, for example. It can be things like home automation. It can be industrial automation. In construction, it could be things like demolition robots. And then you've got aerial solutions, so maybe drones for inspection or Internet of Things sensors for on-site safety monitoring. So I know that Balfour Beatty have actually made Internet of Things safety monitoring mandatory for all the construction machinery that's on their construction sites, because it is one of the main causes of fatalities on a construction site. So that's automating processes in terms of hardware. But more commonly then, automating processes can also be software. So this is a software program that automates mundane, repetitive admin tasks. So these are the type of tasks that nobody enjoys doing. So it could be things like report generation, so pulling information from lots of different sources within a company, amalgamating it and generating a report. So there's probably someone in your company sits and pulls together information for board reports every month. So imagine if you could do all of that automatically, pulling the information from different departments. Compliance reporting, I'm actually working with a company at the minute. They're ISO auditors, and they have built an AI tool and trained it on 30 years of ISO audits. And now they have automated a lot of the paperwork involved in ISO compliance reporting. So if you want to gain or retain your ISOs, it will do about 40% of the paperwork. It could be things like invoice processing, so maybe reconciling purchase orders with invoices that are coming in from different suppliers, so the AI can reconcile the two and process those automatically. It could be things like customer support, maybe screening communication with chatbots. It can be automatic onboarding, or things like bid management, generating first draft tender responses. So the second type of AI is cognitive insights. So this is gaining insights from your company data. So what does that look like in a construction scenario? So that could be something like predictive analytics. So crunching all your past project data to predict delays or cost overruns. It could be things like design optimization, so using AI-powered software to optimize designs against project criteria. Say, for example, you want to go for BREEAM Excellent, and you can optimize the design in order to meet the requirements. It could be monitoring subcontractor performance. Maybe the AI would pick up on specific patterns that maybe involve a particular subcontractor, and then give you data that you could use proactively, maybe to manage performance. But it can provide all kinds of insights, things like profitability insights. It can enhance predictive maintenance, so giving you information in advance. Maybe if construction machinery is about to break down, it can be allowing you to optimize your maintenance schedules. It could be things like supply chain forecasting or scheduling or optimization. It can pull in information and external data as well. So maybe, for example, it might be pulling in weather reports, and maybe there's a big storm coming or a period of bad weather in 2 weeks' time, and it allows you to adjust your scheduling and your supply chain forecasting based around the weather patterns to maybe optimize program. So it can be used for other things like HR, workforce planning as well, market intelligence, and feedback analysis. And then the third type of AI, this is all about improving engagement with your colleagues, customers, and community through using different AI technologies. So this could be something like having an internal knowledge bank for past projects. So say in a scenario where you maybe have 10 or 15 construction projects that are live at any one time, and you've all your past projects as well. And there's maybe a project manager working on one project, but they're maybe not overly aware of projects that their colleagues have worked on in the past or things they're working on currently. And I don't know, say it could be something like uh, say you need information on whether or not you've ever built a project on stilts in a floodplain. And you can go onto the internal chatbot and say, I need information on this. Have we ever done any projects built on stilts? So it mines the information rather than you kind of looking for files blindly or going through folder after folder trying to find information. You can use the chatbot to just find the information for you immediately. So it can be used for things like IT and HR help desks, so screening out all those mundane, frequently asked questions that your HR department or your IT department get on a regular basis. So screening those out so that they're left to concentrate on, things that actually matter. It can be used for customer service and maybe virtual assistants, or video training with avatars for toolbox talks and site inductions. It can be also things then like voice assistants. So say you've got through to the final round of a tender and you're invited for interview. You maybe want to practice that interview against the client's criteria. So you could use a voice assistant to do that, to practice your pitch to them or how you're going to explain it, and get the voice assistant to critique how you've approached that. It could be supplier negotiation simulations, and then virtual reality and augmented reality. So this is already, I suppose, widely used for things like clash detection, virtual site walkthroughs, and then immersive training experiences as well. So those are the three main types of AI. It either automates processes, it gives you insights into your data, or it improves engagement. So it improves the front end stuff where you're dealing with customers or employees or suppliers. So how do you actually implement AI then? So there are three different ways: buy, bolt, and build. Now, for the average SME, buy and bolt are by far the best ways to implement AI. They're the most cost effective and the quickest. So the first one is buy. So looking at off-the-shelf applications that you buy and you maybe pay a monthly subscription to them. It's a really quick and cost-effective way of implementing AI in your company. These are often they can be standalone AI tools where they're not going to upset your internal IT systems and it doesn't end up being a whole palaver. But there are usually APIs or connectors into other software that you use. The second way to bring AI in is through native integrations that extend your existing software with AI capabilities. So I'm thinking here of things like if you use Procore or Autodesk or Econex or Deltek, and you get the AI functionality that's native to those platforms, and you plug that in, and that gives you much more functionality. Then it gives you AI functionality on the software that you're using on a day-to-day basis. Now, the third option here is build. And I wouldn't advise this to anyone because the AI technology is moving on so quickly. And this is where a lot of companies go wrong, and it can end up being really expensive with very little return on investment. So I think that companies mistakenly think that AI is all about the technology. So how do they approach it? They go to their IT department and they say, we need you to look into what AI tools we should be using. And your IT department goes to their point of contact, which is usually someone who's building AI tools. and they'll come back with a really complicated, over-engineered specification that's going to cost you a fortune, because that's what they do. They build AI tools and they want to get into bespoke builds. They're never going to say to you, oh yeah, you can pay us like 200,000 to build this for you, or there's actually an off-the-shelf tool that's going to cost you, a couple of £100 a month. So be very wary of that. The correct place to start with AI is strategy, not with your IT department. This is not an IT project. And that's somewhere that I think that a lot of companies are getting tripped up. So if you were going to start somewhere, there's a lot of information on the market, and it says start somewhere simple, bring in a simple AI tool. And, if you're still getting to grips with what AI is, what is a simple tool that you could bring in? So I want to give you 4 examples here of where would be a good place to start. What kind of AI tools would solve an actual problem in your company where you would see actual benefit? So one of the first places I would start would be bid management, because this is a huge admin task in any company, and it ties up a lot of time and resources. There are a lot of people involved. Depending on the value of the tender, it could be, it could be a significant amount of people for a significant amount of time. So one of the first places I would start would be bid management. Now, I know that companies are using things like ChatGPT to help them with writing tenders. That is a really bad way to go about it. If you think of ChatGPT or some of the general tools like Google Gemini, unless you're building custom GPTs or gems, which are like little tailored programs within those platforms, those platforms are trained on general information that's been scraped from the internet. If you use a job role or a task specific tool, like something for bid management, it's trained specifically on bids and on tenders and on tender formats. And so the guardrails on that are much stricter. So it's not trained on all the crazy that's on the internet. So a couple of examples of AI tools here would be things like AutoGen AI or EasyPQQ. So these are AI-powered bid writing assistants that help construction teams produce PQQ and tender responses faster and with higher consistency. So you can plug these into, in the case of AutoGen, you plug it into your SharePoint. AutoGen mines that for information and case studies and all your past PQQs and tenders. It copies your tone of voice and it generates a first draft. So, but more than that, then it will give you a score based on on your past bids and tenders. You have 65% chance of winning this. So it gives you a bid or no bid scenario. It also then, once it gives you the draft, it will go through section by section, and it'll say, based on the client's criteria, this section is currently sitting at 60%. And in order to score 100% in this section, you need to include the information on X, Y, and Z. So these are much more specific, and they're tailored to how you actually write a tender bid. So this is a really good place to start. Okay, so that's one use case. A second use case would be something like training and onboarding videos. So I actually implemented this for a client of mine, although they were in the manufacturing sector. And so what you can do with this platform, it's called Synthesia. There's another one, HeyGen, which does something similar. So you could basically take the text from a toolbox talk or a method statement or health and safety training or supplier onboarding. You copy and paste the text into the tool. You choose an avatar or a person, and then you hit generate video. And it generates a video so that the training can then be delivered in video format. And it's literally that simple. So, in terms of bringing your training to life, things like method statements, they're never going to set the world on fire. But if you could deliver those in video format, it would be so much better. And where this really worked for my client was that about 50% of their staff on the factory floor were Filipino, and a lot of them didn't speak very good English. And they were worried about, do they actually understand this training that's being delivered in English? So just with one click, you can translate the entire video into, I think, 90 different languages. So if you have, other nationalities maybe working on your construction sites, this is a great way of providing training and being more accessible and being more compliant as well. A third use case would be, this is actually a company that I'm doing some work with. That was the auditing company that I was telling you about that has built the AI tool for ISO compliance. They're called ISO Comply. And basically it reduces the admin burden by up to 40%. It generates the documentation that you need for your ISOs. It generates things like risk assessments and evidence collection for ISO certifications and renewals. So if you're involved in ISO compliance and generating the documentation, you'll know what a huge admin task that is. So the fourth one then, although it's not strictly AI functionality, it is extremely important in terms of gathering data, and this is for ESG and sustainability reporting. So there's a lot of people across an organization who need to feed into ESG and sustainability reporting. It can be your HR department, health and safety, quality, your contracts managers, whoever. So the information needs pulled from lots of different sources. So this is in effect a form of the first type of AI, robotic process automation. And in order for AI to work really effectively, you need data, which is in a coherent and clean format in order for the AI to produce accurate results. So a tool like Sustain IQ is excellent for pulling together that information. There is reporting functionality on it, and it integrates with things like Power BI. But again, there are different reporting tools that you can integrate with this, but it's a great way of pulling together the data that gets you, further down the line. So if you had to choose somewhere to start, I think those are four really user-friendly use cases. None of them are going to upset your IT systems. They're going to integrate with what you're already using. Really good ways of getting people on board with it, particularly in the case of the training, the Synthesia training, because it's very visible and everybody across the company sees it. And yes, so that's what you want to do. You want to bring people on board and show them the benefits. So one mistake that people make is thinking that using the AI tools or introducing the technology is going to give them competitive advantage. It won't. If it does, there's a very short-term advantage here. I would say maximum 18 to 24 months. But at that point, everybody will be using the AI tools. So it's just going to raise the bar for everybody. So how do you actually build competitive advantage? So I see this as there are three different ways you can do this, or preferably all three. Through your people. So AI actually magnifies what's already there. If someone is crap at their job and you give them AI tools, it doesn't suddenly make them good at their job. They're just probably worse because it's magnifying what's already there. But if you have people in your company who are really good at their job, they really know what they're doing, they are the people who are going to benefit most from using AI. Because they're going to, because it's a combination of your knowledge of your job role and your discipline and your critical thinking and the skills that you've built up over the course of your career. It's that plus the AI and the functionality and the power that that gives you. It's the two in combination that help you to build competitive advantage. And this is why it's so, so important to train your people. AI literacy, teaching them how to prompt, because prompting is, it's a common thread that runs through all AI tools, more or less, and teaching them things about, governance and ethics and compliance and the do's and don'ts of using AI tools. So the people element is extremely important. And this is where your HR department has to be really on the ball, because the whole piece around workforce planning, excuse me, and skills transition is something that they need to start planning now. Just in the same way that I realized at a point, if I don't upskill myself, I'm not going to have a job in 5 years, because my skills and my knowledge and how I execute my services will no longer be relevant. So everyone's job role is going to transition. All our job roles as they are today will cease to exist, and our job roles will look very different in 2 years' time. So the people element's really important. The second part of building competitive advantage is through your process or your strategy. So you don't just bring in AI to keep doing what you've been doing for the last 10 or 20 years, except you want to do it faster or more efficiently or more profitably. Yes, those are all important, but that's like a baseline. So you need to be thinking, what else could we do that AI makes possible that we weren't able to do before? So I'll give you an example. So when you work in consultancy, you're always constrained by the number of hours in a day and the number of days in a week. So I am in the process of cloning myself. And my AI clone is going to go off and deliver training courses. So I could give that, I could have that AI clone delivering training courses in Spanish and selling them into Latin America, where I used to work. So that allows me to scale myself and to double the time or tenfold my time. So you need to think about that as well from your perspective. How do we use AI to do other things that we aren't able to do at the minute? So you need to be thinking about, how do we evolve our business model? What could other revenue streams look like for us? What would our service delivery models look like? Think about all that project data that you have. Could you package that and could you sell that as project intelligence to your clients? Or could you use that to, use that intelligence to help you to win more tenders? So it's thinking about all of that. And that's really strategic. So by just bringing in tools and thinking, oh, we'll just bring in the AI tools and everybody will use them and that'll be it. That is like thinking about AI implementation at its very lowest level. So, and then the third strand of competitive advantage is data. And if you're working in construction and you haven't embraced digital transformation, this is where you're going to be at a distinct disadvantage. The further you are down your digital transformation route, the better position that you're in, because you're going to have your data in, a coherent format. It's going to be well labeled. It's going to be clean. And if you're not in that position, then you're going to have to invest probably quite a bit of money into getting your data into shape. But just the technology alone is not enough to build competitive advantage. So, as I said, most of the AI tools are job role specific. And that's why your IT department can't lead AI implementation, because it takes your knowledge of your discipline plus the AI tool in order to use it effectively. So that's not something your IT department can do for you, which is why everybody in the company needs digital skills. They need AI literacy. So I would say we have an 18 to 24 month window. This is urgent, and because companies that are early adopters of AI are going to jump way ahead. AI is really the new operating system for how everything will function in the future. And learning to use it and learning to use the AI tools and getting up to speed with how to prompt the AI tools is like learning a language. It's incremental. So there are no shortcuts here. You can't buy the knowledge. And so you need to start off by experimenting with the tools and getting to see what their capabilities are and what their limitations are. But it's absolutely crucial to career and company longevity to start learning this now. So, and the technology is continuing to evolve. So, even for myself, and I'm quite far down the line with AI, I struggle to keep up with how with all the developments. It can literally just fry your head at times. So, you've got to get started somewhere. How are job roles going to change? Well, everybody's going to need new skills, new digital skills. We've talked about HR, how they need to look at skills transition, and there are probably new skills that you're going to need in your company. You're going to need to look at what roles you need to hire for, what skills you're going to need to bring into the company that you maybe didn't have before, things like data engineers, data analysts. And that will also have an effect then on maybe the partnerships that you have with further education colleges or universities. The whole organizational structure will change as well, because if you have these AI tools that are doing very powerful things, they're pulling information in real time, you need to be able to act on the information in real time. You can't go for like 3 or 4 layers of sign off once you have the information. And there will be a lot of cross collaboration and actually executing different tasks within a company. So everyone's role will evolve. This is something that I couldn't emphasize enough, is compliance and confidentiality. And again, there's a lot of naivety here around AI tools, and I would explain to people, don't put anything into ChatGPT that you wouldn't be willing to put on the front page of your website. On a daily basis, people are uploading customer details, financial details. I read somewhere about somebody uploading their bank statements onto ChatGPT. All of that information is public. So if you're doing that, that's a huge GDPR infringement, and the fines for that are astronomical. So if, say for example, someone in your company unwittingly uploaded client details onto ChatGPT, and maybe someone else saw those details, and the client comes to you and says, nobody would know that information except you. It could be traced back, and yeah, then you're in trouble. So this is part of the reason why you need to make people aware of the do's and don'ts of using AI tools. Not putting in, if it's a free AI tool, you and your information are the product. So make sure that you're using enterprise grade tools that are ring fenced and your information's not going out publicly. Get an AI policy in place and train your people on the do's and don'ts. So when we're talking about implementing AI in a company, we're really talking about change management or organizational transformation. We're all familiar with digital transformation and how the construction sector has undergone digital transformation over the last 15, 20 years. But implementing AI is a lot more than that. It's, you implement the tools, but you also have to change the structure of your company around that, the skills of your people. It's a big cultural and mindset shift in how the company operates, what your business model is, what your revenue streams are, how you operate on a day-to-day basis, what people's job roles look like on a day-to-day basis. So it's not just about implementing the tools, it's much, much wider than that. So how do you actually get started with AI then? Well, I would say align your AI strategy with your business strategy. What are you trying to achieve? And always start with that business goal in mind. Map your workflows and the different challenges that you have. And then look at developing a stakeholder communication strategy. You know what it's like when you try to change anything in a company or you try to introduce new software. And if everybody hasn't been consulted, then they just dig their heels in and say, well, nobody spoke to me about that. Nobody consulted me, so I'm not using it. And so you need to make sure that you're bringing the entire company on board right from the get-go and that you're communicating with them. These tools are being brought in to assist us. They're not being brought in to replace people. All of that communication strategy. And it's not just with your employees, it's externally as well, with your suppliers and with your clients. So provide AI literacy training to all your staff, very important. And then to actually get started, pilot only 2 to 3 AI tools in really low risk areas where you're not having to spend a lot of money, to just try them out and see how they work, what their capabilities are, what their limitations are, and then share those learnings right across your organization. The worst thing you can do is bring in AI tools and not communicate what you're doing with the rest of the company. Because a lot of the AI tools kind of function in the same basic way. So there can be learnings that, rather than operating in silos and reinventing the wheel each time, make sure that you're sharing the information. So a little bit just then on the services that I provide. I provide training, consultancy, and implementation. So things like AI literacy training for employees, training and masterclasses for boards and senior management. My approach is very much strategic. It's vision-led and not tech-led. But if you're tech-led, you're playing drafts, whereas you should be playing chess. The technology is just thinking about the one step ahead, whereas if you're taking a vision-led approach, you're thinking about the big picture. How do we build competitive advantage for the longer term? So you're thinking about AI strategy and your strategic positioning in the market. Business transformation, then helping you to build competitive advantage through your business models, your revenue streams, and helping companies with workforce planning and skills transition. That's a really important piece. Also things like AI ethics, governance, and compliance, really, really important when you're looking at this because there's a lot of wider implications of using AI technology. But it is important to have short-term wins where you're using AI tools to solve actual problems and, garnering support internally and bringing people on board. But at the same time, you also need to be working on your long-term competitive advantage. So the training and consultancy that I provide is either online or in person. And I will have a whole schedule of new training classes in the new year. But something that I am launching in January 2026 is a new constructive intelligence hub. So this is basically like a hub for AI implementation in construction. And it's to really provide a peer learning community for construction companies, taking you through step by step with a roadmap how to implement AI strategically across every part of your business. So this will be a subscription model. There will be flexible membership tiers, bronze, silver, and gold packages. And there will be live training, pre-recorded training on this, but we'll have live training every 2 weeks from myself and other subject matter experts. So I will have cybersecurity experts, I will have data specialists, and there will also be demos from some of the tool vendors and some preferential rates there as well for different AI tools. There will also be a whole information hub with checklists, things like AI policies and templates. So that will help you to build your AI roadmap. It'll help you to build your own governance framework and your workforce plan as well. We will have live Q&A sessions on there where you will be able to come forward with maybe issues that you're having internally, and you need access to people with specialist skills to advise you on what the best way forward is. So we'll also have then role-specific masterclasses for different roles within construction companies and subcontractors. So things like estimating, quantity surveying, contracts and project management teams, things for health and safety, basically any role you can think of within a construction company. So I will be announcing the launch of that on LinkedIn. So if you aren't connected with me yet, please do connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll be keeping everybody up to date on there. So those are my contact details, and I hope that you found that useful, and I hope it gave you a bit of a framework for understanding AI and where it fits in your company. Does anyone have any questions? Just you can either come off mute or maybe drop them into the chat. Sorry, I haven't left us very much time for questions, but anyone, any questions at all? Okay, if you don't want to ask them now, do feel free to just drop me a line or give me a call, and if there are any questions that I can answer on that for you. But I hope you find it useful, and yeah, get in contact if you have any questions. Okay, thank you. Thanks everyone for coming along today.